Can you believe that Nintendo of America actually did not intend to bring Xenoblade Chronicles to the US? Maybe it was because they were too focused on the casual public that wouldn't enjoy a massive JRPG, but it still impresses me how they would ignore a game that received such acclaim and that was developed in-house by Nintendo's own studio Monolith Soft. If not for Operation Rainfall, probably one of the most successful campaigns by fans in the gaming world, I don't think I would be here presenting this video about one of my favorite franchises. Hey everyone, it's me Luis Estrela from Nintendo Everything, and it's amazing to see the attention that Nintendo is giving to Xenoblade, considering the whole situation with Operation Rainfall when the fans had to beg for a localization. Since the launch of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in 2017, aka my favorite JRPG of all time, please don't question it, it feels as if Nintendo really has a sweet spot for the franchise. Almost every year there's something for us, fans. In 2018, the Torna DLC was released, featuring more than 20 hours of gameplay, new areas, new music, new combat system, and of course, a new story that works as a prequel. Honestly, it's as good as a DLC can be, almost a new game. I would even argue that in some areas Torna surpasses the base experience, thanks to Monolith listening to players' feedback. I hope that every new Xenoblade game receives a similar DLC in the future. Let's skip 2019 because in that specific year nothing happens, but in 2020 we had COVID Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, a remaster or a remake, it's a little of both to be honest, of the original game on the Wii. It's great, really, because, you know, I love the original Xenoblade, but the character models in the Wii version were atrocious, which is understandable considering how big the game was for the console, but now we have this amazing version with beautiful characters, environments, streamlined menus and remastered music. I mean, it's almost a privilege for a Nintendo IP to receive that treatment. We saw recently with Mario and Zelda that Nintendo usually chooses very safe remasters, with small tweaks and almost no changes in the graphical department. Mario 64 on the 3D All-Stars collection wasn't even upgraded to a 16:9 ratio. Oh, and I almost forgot, Definitive Edition also includes an expansion, Future Connected, an epilogue for the original story. It's a short but sweet experience that adds even more value to the package. I suspect that the special treatment that Xenoblade receives is probably related to Monolith Soft and the care and appreciation that they have for their creations. 2021 was a little bit different. Instead of a new experience, Pyra and Mythra joined Smash, and that has an immense meaning for the series. This was something that I wanted for a long time, but I didn't expect it because Smash was getting more and more crowded with famous and big characters from huge franchises. However, it seems that I underestimated how much Nintendo actually cares for Xenoblade. With those two characters being announced, it was a huge amount of exposition for those that never played the series and also a clear confirmation that there were more things to come. I'm not even a huge Smash player, I only enjoy playing casually, but man, I was happy to see those characters in the game. It was really special not only because of the characters, but the stage, the songs and the video used in the announcements. Smash is a celebration and I was happy that Xenoblade 2 was invited to the party. Here we are now with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 just announced, and I want to talk about that in a minute. But before, I want to answer a simple question. Why? Bro, why? Look at the sales numbers. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's nothing crazy either. Why is this series receiving so much love and attention and there's nothing for F-Zero, Pikmin, Earthbound, Donkey Kong? Why? Well, it's not that complicated actually. First, Xenoblade is Monolith's favorite baby, it's their biggest creation, so every time that they have the opportunity to focus on something, they will choose that. And to make things better, Monolith has amazing administration. They can produce a lot with quality. You don't hear much about development hell or being stuck on a single game for years. They are able to help Nintendo and keep producing their own things. Retro Studio is a good example of a great studio that sadly had problems with bad management. It's been 8 years years since we saw something from them, apart from a number of rumors of cancelled projects. Of course I hope they come back in great style with Prime 4, but my point is, great administration results in a better output. It's funny, in almost every interview with Monolith Soft director and founder Tetsuya Takahashi, he always mentions how the team has to work with the constraints related to time and budget. It's always a concern for him. Xenoblade is massive, but its success is modest, so the budget is probably relatively small. However, they are always able to impress with the production value, delivering games full of fantastic cutscenes using motion capture for animation, orchestral music, and a huge world to explore. It doesn't feel cheap in the slightest. Maybe the only moment that Xenoblade actually feels cheap is in those dialogue cutscenes with robotic animations, but that's almost expected in a huge JRPG like this. I would also like to point out that here we have a niche that Nintendo's internal teams don't usually tackle. A massive open world JRPG is very attractive for a number of people, and if that niche can reach 2 million units sold, it's something worth investing. Nintendo can't rely on Square anymore for this genre. The bright and new Final Fantasy games will always end up in more powerful consoles. At the end of the day, Xenoblade benefits both Monolith and Nintendo, in a way that simply makes sense to keep developing and spreading the word about the franchise. It's a very specific circumstance, and that's why it almost feels like something too good to be true. If we take a look at the time of development for other big JRPGs nowadays, such as Persona, Final Fantasy, it's crazy. Years for a new game to see the light of day. It's a genre that demands a lot to develop, and not always the profits are guaranteed, but somehow Monolith managed to find stability in that space, and that's why we are receiving a completely new Xeno game in less than 8 months from now.
Fighting in order to live, and living to fight.
The whole point of this video is to highlight how spoiled we Xenoblade fans are. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a clear representation of that. If you didn't play both, Xenoblade 1 and 2, the concept of a new one that brings together the future of these games probably sounds cool and exciting. However, if you played both of them, your reaction would be more like, "Oh my god, they did it! Did it! It's happening!" It's a whole new level of fanservice. There are references everywhere in the trailer. Actually, there's so much that at the first time that I watched it, my mind simply stopped working because it was impossible to make sense of what was appearing on the screen. How is this character here? When this is happening? Is this who I think it is? What? Honestly, the way that Xenoblade ties their stories is probably unheard of in the gaming world. At least I never saw something like that. Do you know how games usually reset their worlds and stories in each entry? Mostly because it's hard to attract new players for a series in the 10th installment with constant continuity. Video games take a lot of time to experience, and usually games in the same franchises are available on different consoles, so it's hard to keep up. However, Monolith Soft managed to find a way in which you can easily play each one in the series separately and have a fantastic experience from beginning to end. However, if you play both of them, you are rewarded in a fantastic way. And surprisingly, it seems that the third entry followed this formula, because Takahashi said that the game can be experienced by those who never played anything in the franchise. I'm also excited to see how much Monolith evolved since Xenoblade 2. We already know that they were able to refine their graphical engine and UI creation thanks to Torna and Definitive Edition, but it's different now with a new game. The visual looks amazing, a lot of beautiful effects on those cutscenes, and the cinematography is amazing as always. A small detail that I noticed is that there's a new system for the hair physics in all characters. They move in a very cool way. I know this is micro, but it's just so cool to see the refinements that they are making, and as expected, the scenarios are strong as ever. At the exact moment that the trailer showed this, I felt a mix of familiarity and freshness. Something that made me really excited was this specific moment in which we saw kind of a boat. Maybe we will see something similar to Xenoblade Chronicles X, where you can explore the world with different vehicles. It would be awesome. I'm also curious about how they will handle the negative feedback that Xenoblade 2 received for some elements. This part is a little hard for me because the second one is my favorite, but I know that it could be better in some aspects. I don't want a gacha system back or the same level of absurdity in the character designs, yeah. But at the same time, I definitely want the same level of character development in the story and a combat system equally satisfying and deep to play. I mean, it seems that the whole thing about Xenoblade 3 is to mix the best elements of 1 and 2, and I'm all in for that. Well, it's undeniable that the Xenoblade community is receiving a lot, and honestly, it feels earned, because if not for the fans, the series would never come to the West. Our biggest problem for the moment is to wait until September to play this new masterpiece. Well, if you guys can excuse me, I'll keep watching videos with 2 hours analyzing a 2 minutes long trailer. Until next time, bye!